I found my daughter's credit card statement while looking for band-aids in her bathroom drawer. $15,000 in 1 month. Designer clothes, luxury spa treatments, weekend getaways. My hands started shaking as I stared at the numbers. This was the same month she told me she couldn't afford to pay me even $50 for gas because they were struggling financially. My name is Patricia. I'm 67 years old, and for 7 years I had been my daughter's free full-time nanny while she lived a life of luxury on my sacrifices. Let me take you back to where this all began, because you need to understand just how deep this betrayal goes. My daughter Sarah gave birth to her first child, Emma, 7 years ago. I was there in the delivery room, holding her hand, crying tears of joy as my first grandchild came into the world. Sarah looked at me with those exhausted, grateful eyes and said, "Mom, I don't know what I'd do without you." 2 months later, when her maternity leave was ending, Sarah sat me down at my kitchen table. She had dark circles under her eyes, and Emma was fussing in her arms. "Mom," she said, her voice breaking, "I don't know how we're going to make this work. Daycare costs are insane. We're looking at $1,200 a month, and with Mike's student loans and our mortgage, we just can't swing it. I might have to quit my job." My heart broke for her. I remembered those early years of motherhood. How exhausting and overwhelming they were. How scared I'd been about money. What if I watched Emma? I heard myself saying, "Just until you get on your feet, financially." The relief on Sarah's face was immediate. She started crying, stood up and hugged me so tight. "Mom, are you sure? That would be incredible. Just for a little while, until we can afford proper daycare. Maybe a year or so." That was 7 years ago. What started as watching Emma 3 days, a week quickly became 5 days. Then 6. Sarah's work hours seemed to expand constantly. "Mom, I know it's a lot to ask, but could you come at 7 instead of 8? I have an early meeting." Or, "Mom, could you stay until 6:30 tonight? Mike has a work thing." I never said no. She was my daughter. Emma was my granddaughter. This is what family does. When Sarah got pregnant with her second child, Jackson, 3 years later, she cried on my shoulder. "I don't know how we'll manage, Mom. We're already stretched so thin." I held her and promised that of course I'd watch both children. What else could I do? By the time baby Olivia arrived 2 years after that, I was essentially running a full-time daycare. Except I wasn't getting paid. Not a single dollar. Not for the 60 hours a week I spent at their house. Not for the meals I prepared. Not for the diapers I changed, the homework I helped with, the endless loads of laundry I folded while babies napped. I want you to understand the scope of what I gave up. Before Emma was born, I had finally retired from 35 years of teaching. I had plans. My friend Janet and I were going to take that cross-country road trip we'd been talking about for decades. I'd joined a book club. I'd started taking watercolor classes at the community center on Thursday mornings. I was learning to play bridge. I had dated a very sweet widower named Frank who took me to the symphony and made me laugh over coffee. All of that disappeared. The road trip never happened. I had to quit book club after missing 6 meetings in a row because Sarah needed me to stay late. The watercolor classes conflicted with my babysitting schedule. Bridge nights were impossible. And Frank, gentle Frank, eventually stopped calling after I canceled our 7th date because Sarah had a work emergency. "Mom, you understand, right?" Sarah would say. "You're retired. You have so much free time now. And this way you get to spend time with your grandchildren. Isn't that better than sitting around at home?" I swallowed my disappointment every time. She was right, wasn't she? What did I have to do that was more important than helping my own daughter? My own grandchildren? Let me paint you a picture of my typical day. I'd wake up at 5:30 in the morning, earlier than I ever woke up when I was working. I'd shower, get dressed, pack myself a lunch because Sarah never thought to feed me, and drive the 23 miles to their house in the suburbs. Gas alone was costing me nearly $200 a month, but Sarah said they couldn't afford to help with that. I'd arrive at their house at 6:45, letting myself in with the key they'd given me. Mike would usually still be in the shower. Sarah would be rushing around getting ready for work, leaving wet towels on the bathroom floor and dirty coffee cups on the counter. Neither of them would say good morning to me. I was just expected to be there, like a piece of furniture. Emma, now 7, needed to be woken up, dressed, fed breakfast, and have her lunch packed for school. Jackson, 4, required constant attention and had a gift for finding new ways to hurt himself. Olivia, 2, was in that phase where she wanted to be held constantly and screamed if you put her down. By 7:30, Sarah and Mike would be gone. No goodbye. No thank you. Just gone. I'd clean up their breakfast mess, load their dishwasher, get Emma ready for school. I'd walk her to the bus stop at 8:15, holding Jackson's hand and carrying Olivia in my arms because Sarah never remembered to leave the stroller accessible. Then I'd spend the day entertaining Jackson and Olivia, reading books I'd bought with my own money because their house had exactly 3 board books and a torn copy of Goodnight Moon, playing with toys I'd purchased for birthdays and Christmas, feeding them lunch with food from my own grocery runs because Sarah never kept the pantry stocked with child-friendly options. At 3:15, Emma would come home from school. I'd help her with homework, make them all a snack, referee the inevitable fights. At 5, I'd start making dinner for the kids. Not for me, mind you. I'd eat my packed lunch at noon and then go hungry until I could get home at 7 and make myself something. Sarah would usually arrive around 6, sometimes 6:30. She'd walk in, drop her designer purse on the counter I'd just cleaned, and immediately start complaining about her day. God, I'm exhausted. Traffic was terrible. My boss is such a nightmare. She'd pour herself a glass of wine from their well-stocked wine fridge and collapse on the couch, scrolling through her phone while I finished feeding Olivia. Mike would come home around 7. He'd grunt a hello in my direction, grab a beer, and disappear into his home office. Neither of them would offer me dinner. Neither would ask if I was tired. Neither seemed to notice that I'd been caring for their children for 12 hours straight. I'd gather my things, remind Sarah about Emma's school project due Friday or Jackson's doctor appointment on Tuesday, and drive home in the dark. I'd get to my house around 7:45, exhausted, hungry, my back aching, my feet swollen. I'd heat up something quick, eat it standing at the counter because I was too tired to sit, and then collapse into bed. This was my life. 7 days a week turned into 5. Turned into 6 when Sarah needed me on Saturdays for various reasons. Always last minute. Always presented as an emergency. Mom, I know it's your day off, but I have this work thing I forgot about. Or Mom, Mike and I desperately need some couple time. Our marriage is struggling. Could you take the kids just for Saturday? I said yes every time. Because what kind of mother wouldn't help her daughter's marriage? What kind of grandmother wouldn't want to spend time with her grandchildren? But here's the thing that was slowly eating away at me. Sarah lived in a beautiful 4-bedroom house in an expensive suburb. She drove a brand new SUV. Mike had a BMW. I'd see deliveries from Nordstrom, from Williams-Sonoma, from Restoration Hardware. Their house was filled with expensive furniture, state-of-the-art appliances, designer everything. Yet every time I gently suggested maybe they could afford to help with my gas, or pay me a small amount, even just $50 a week, Sarah's face would crumble. Mom, I wish we could. You have no idea how tight money is. These kids are so expensive. Our mortgage is killing us. Mike's student loans are crushing. We're barely making it month to month. I felt guilty for even asking. My own daughter was struggling, and here I was being selfish about money. I was retired. I had my teacher's pension, my Social Security. I owned my little house outright. I didn't need much. And wasn't the time with my grandchildren payment enough? Except I couldn't help but notice things. Sarah's nails were always perfectly manicured. She had a new designer handbag every few months. They took a vacation to Hawaii when Olivia was 6 months old, leaving me to watch the older 2 for 8 days. It was so cheap, Mom. We couldn't pass it up. Just a little break before Mike starts his new position. My birthday came and went in March with a card from the dollar store. Sorry, Mom. Things are just so tight right now. We'll make it up to you. But 2 weeks later, Sarah was showing me photos of the new patio furniture set they'd just bought. $3,200, but it was such a good deal. We couldn't resist. I was starting to feel a gnawing resentment, but I pushed it down. I was being ungrateful. I was being petty. They were young. They were building their life. They needed nice things too. I was the grandmother. This was my role now. Then Mother's Day came. I had been fantasizing about it for weeks. Maybe Sarah would take the kids for the day and tell me to rest. Maybe they'd take me out to brunch, my treat even. Maybe they'd even just say thank you. Acknowledge everything I'd been doing. Mother's Day morning, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was Sarah. Mom? Hi. Listen, I know it's Mother's Day and everything, but Mike surprised me with spa day appointments. We both really need this. Could you come watch the kids? We'll be back by 5. I felt something crack inside my chest. Sarah, I said, my voice shaking, it's Mother's Day. I'm a mother too. There was a pause. Then Sarah laughed, actually laughed. Mom, come on. You know what I mean. You're retired. Every day is like a Sunday for you. Plus, you'll get to spend Mother's Day with your grandchildren. Isn't that what you'd want anyway? I opened my mouth to say no. To say I had plans, even though I didn't. To say I deserved one day off. But the words wouldn't come. What time do you need me? I heard myself ask. Could you be here by 8? Our appointments are at 9:30. I spent Mother's Day changing diapers and breaking up fights and making chicken nuggets for lunch. Sarah and Mike came home at 7, not 5, smelling like eucalyptus and carrying shopping bags. Thanks, Mom, Sarah called as she walked past me to put her bags in her bedroom. The spa had the most amazing boutique. I couldn't resist. I went home and cried for the first time in years. Real ugly crying. The kind that comes from somewhere so deep you can't control it. I felt used. I felt invisible. I felt like I'd somehow become nothing more than free labor, valued less than a piece of furniture. But the next morning, Sarah called with a story about Jackson having a rough night, and could I please come early, and I said yes. Because what else could I do? These were my grandchildren. This was my daughter. Family helps family. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Tuesday in late September, unseasonably warm. Olivia had a diaper blowout of epic proportions. I'd changed her in the bathroom, realized they were out of wipes, had to use toilet paper and water, got it all over my sleeve. I needed to wash my hands properly, and remembered Sarah kept hand soap refills under the bathroom sink. I opened the cabinet under the sink, looking for soap. Instead, my hand landed on a stack of papers that had fallen behind the cleaning supplies. I pulled them out to put them back properly. That's when I saw it. An American Express statement addressed to Sarah. I knew I shouldn't look. It was private. But my eyes caught the balance line before I could stop myself. $15,347 in charges for 1 month. My legs went weak. I sat down on the closed toilet lid, statement in my shaking hands. I told myself it must be an error, or maybe it was medical bills, or necessary home repairs. I shouldn't jump to conclusions. But then my eyes traveled down the list of charges. $732 at Neiman Marcus, $950 at Sephora, $416 at some place called La Mer, $685 at Anthropology, $3,200 at something called Blue Lagoon Resort, $1,100 at a restaurant called Nobu. I kept reading, my heart pounding louder with each line. Designer clothes, luxury skincare, high-end restaurants, weekend resort stays, premium yoga studio memberships, organic juice cleanses, designer accessories, on and on and on. This was 1 month, one single month. And this was just one credit card. This was the month after Sarah had told me she couldn't afford to give me $50 for gas. I sat in that bathroom for 20 minutes just staring at that statement. Olivia was calling for me from the living room, but I couldn't move. My brain was trying to process what I was seeing, trying to make it make sense with everything Sarah had told me about their financial struggles. They weren't struggling. They were living a life of luxury, while I provided thousands of dollars of free childcare every single month. Let me do the math for you, because I did it right there in that bathroom, my hands still shaking. Professional daycare for 3 children in their area would cost approximately $3,000 a month. Multiply that by 12 months, that's $36,000 a year. Times 7 years, $252,000. $252,000 of my time, my energy, my retirement, my life, given freely because I believed my daughter needed help. Because I believed they were struggling. Because I believed I was doing something good and necessary and loving. I carefully folded that statement and put it in my pocket. I don't know why. Evidence, maybe. Proof that I wasn't crazy, that this was real. I went back to the living room where Olivia was happily playing with blocks. My body was on autopilot, but my mind was racing. How long had they been lying to me? Had they ever really struggled, or was that just a convenient story to keep me working for free? Every time I'd ask for help with gas, every time I'd gently mention maybe a small payment, Sarah's tears and protests about their financial situation. Had all of it been an act? I thought about that Blue Lagoon resort charge. $3,200. I Googled it on my phone while Olivia napped. It was a luxury resort in Iceland. Sarah and Mike had gone to Iceland, while telling me they couldn't afford to help with my gas. I thought about the Nobu charge. $1,100 for one dinner. I'd been packing peanut butter sandwiches and eating them in their living room while they were spending $1,100 on a single meal. I thought about all the times Sarah had said they couldn't afford a proper birthday gift for me. A Mother's Day gift, even a Christmas gift. Last Christmas, they'd given me a candle from Target. A candle. I'd given each of the children multiple presents I'd saved for months to afford. Plus, I'd given Sarah and Mike a nice dinner gift certificate. They gave me a $17 candle. Emma came home from school. I helped her with her math homework like always, but I wasn't really present. My mind was somewhere else, running through years of memories, seeing them all in a new light. All those times Sarah had emergencies that required me to stay late or come early. Were they really emergencies? Or was she just getting a manicure, having lunch with friends, taking a yoga class? All those times Mike couldn't help with the kids because of work things. Was he really working? Or was he playing golf, having drinks with colleagues, going to the gym? All those times they told me they couldn't afford to take the kids to the zoo, to the children's museum, to anywhere that cost money. So I'd taken them with my own money. Had that been real? Or had they just not wanted to spend their money on their children when they could spend it on themselves? Sarah came home that evening at her usual time. She walked in wearing a new outfit I hadn't seen before, carrying a shopping bag from Bloomingdale's. God, what a day, she sighed, dropping everything on the counter. I desperately needed some retail therapy. I stared at her, really looked at her. Her highlighted hair, professionally styled. Her perfect makeup. Her expensive workout clothes that she wore to her $80 a month yoga studio. Her designer watch. Her luxury handbag. Her $1,000 boots. How was your day, Mom? She asked, not looking up from her phone. Fine, I heard myself say. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Distant. Great. Hey, actually, could you come early tomorrow? Like 6:30? Mike and I are doing this breakfast meeting thing with his boss. Should be good for his career. Before, I would have said yes automatically. But something had shifted. I felt that statement in my pocket like it was burning through my clothes. What time will you be back? Sarah looked up, surprised by the question. I never asked when they'd be back. I just came and left when they needed me. Probably by 9 or so. Why? I just need to know what I'm planning for. She laughed. Mom, you're so funny. It's not like you have anywhere else to be. That sentence, that casual, thoughtless sentence, it lodged in my chest like a knife. I'll be here at 7, I said. Not 6:30. 7. It was a tiny rebellion, but it felt monumental. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, that credit card statement on my nightstand. I picked it up and read it again, hoping maybe I'd misread it, maybe I'd gotten confused. But no, the numbers were the same. The proof was undeniable. I thought about calling Sarah, confronting her right then. But something stopped me. If I confronted her, she'd have excuses ready. She'd cry. She'd tell me I was misunderstanding. She'd make me feel guilty for doubting her. She was good at that. I'd seen her do it to Mike, to her friends, to me 100 times. No, I needed to think. I needed to be smart about this. I got up and went to my computer. I started researching. How much does daycare cost? How much is a nanny? What was the going rate for the kind of care I'd been providing? The numbers made me feel sick. Professional nannies in their area charge $20 to $30 an hour. For 3 children, more like 35. Times 60 hours a week. Times 52 weeks a year. I'd been providing a service worth over $100,000 annually. For 7 years. For free. Over $700,000. That's what I'd given them. And they were living like millionaires while telling me they couldn't spare $50 for my gas. I barely slept. When my alarm went off at 5:30, I felt like I hadn't slept at all. But I got up, got dressed, packed my lunch. Habit is a powerful thing. I drove to their house in the dark, my mind churning. I let myself in at 7. Not 6:30 like Sarah had asked. 7. Mike was in the kitchen, making himself an elaborate smoothie with ingredients that probably cost $40. He didn't acknowledge me. I wasn't even sure he noticed I'd come in. Sarah rushed out at 7:15, already running late. Mom, I said 6:30, she snapped. Now we're going to hit traffic. I said I'd be here at 7, I replied calmly. She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. I'd never contradicted her before. Never pushed back. Whatever. We'll talk about this later. Emma needs her permission slip signed for the field trip. It's on the counter. Olivia's been fussy. I think she's getting a cold. Make sure Jackson eats something other than crackers for lunch. And then she was gone. No goodbye. No thank you. Just gone. I stood in their beautiful, expensive kitchen, surrounded by stainless steel appliances and marble countertops, and felt something inside me harden. A decision crystallizing. Over the next week, I started paying attention to things I'd been too busy or too conditioned to notice before. I saw the constant deliveries. Amazon Prime boxes every other day. Packages from expensive retailers. Fresh flowers delivered weekly for $90 a week, I later learned. I saw Sarah's social media, which I rarely looked at. Photos of her and Mike at expensive restaurants. Weekend trips to vineyards. Spa days. Concert tickets. Her captions were all about self-care and living your best life and treating yourself. I saw the way they interacted with their children when they were home. Sarah scrolling through her phone while Emma tried to show her a drawing. Mike telling Jackson he was too busy for catch when he was clearly just watching sports on TV. Neither of them reading bedtime stories, doing homework, playing games. Why would they? That's what Grandma was for. I saw their Amazon browsing history once when I used their tablet to look up a recipe for the kids. Luxury items, designer goods, the latest tech gadgets. $600 for noise-canceling headphones. $900 for a new tablet when their current one was perfectly fine. $1,200 for a standing desk. But what really broke me was something I overheard. It was a Friday afternoon. Emma had a play date, and I was sitting in the kitchen with Olivia while she had her snack. Sarah didn't know I was there. She must have thought I'd left with Emma. I heard her on the phone in the other room, talking to someone. Her voice was that particular tone she used with her friends, casual and gossipy. No, I totally agree, she was saying. That's why I'm so glad we never got rid of Mom's arrangement. I mean, sure, she's a little annoying sometimes with her suggestions about how we should parent, but free child care? That's worth putting up with literally anything. I froze, my hand halfway to Olivia's mouth with a spoonful of applesauce. Exactly, Sarah continued, laughing. Everyone else we know is hemorrhaging money on nannies and daycare. Meanwhile, we're able to actually enjoy our income. Like, I almost feel guilty about the Iceland trip, but then I'm like, why? We work hard. We deserve nice things. It's not our fault Mom has nothing better to do. Nothing better to do. The words echoed in my head. And the best part is she'd never ask us to pay her. She's too nice. Too much of a people pleaser. We just have to keep playing the "we're struggling" card and she eats it up every time. I swear, Mike and I could buy a vacation house and she'd still believe we're broke if I cried a little. I heard her laughing. My daughter was laughing about manipulating me. I know, right? Sometimes Mike feels bad, like maybe we should give her something. But I'm like, for what? She's retired. She's literally just sitting around otherwise. This way she has purpose. We're actually doing her a favor when you think about it. Doing me a favor. I carefully set down the spoon. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't hold it steady. Olivia looked at me with her big innocent eyes. completely unaware that her mother was in the next room bragging about using her grandmother. Anyway, I should go, Sarah said. I have that Pilates class at 4 and I need to shower first. Yeah, talk later. I heard her footsteps coming toward the kitchen. I quickly busied myself wiping Olivia's face, praying Sarah wouldn't notice my red cheeks, my shaking hands. Oh, Mom, you're still here? Sarah said, stopping in the doorway. I thought you left with Emma. Just finishing Olivia's snack, I managed to say. Cool. Hey, so tomorrow's Saturday and Mike and I are thinking about going to that new brunch place in the city. Could you watch the kids? We'll probably leave around 10 and be back by 3 or 4. Before, I would have said yes, even after everything I discovered. Habit was so ingrained I almost said yes, but I didn't. I heard myself say, actually, Sarah, I have plans tomorrow. She blinked. Plans? What plans? Personal plans. Mom. Her voice took on that edge, the one that said I was being unreasonable. Can't you reschedule? We've been looking forward to this. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd given birth to, raised, loved, sacrificed everything for. This woman who was using me without a shred of guilt or gratitude. No, I said quietly. I can't reschedule. Seriously? She crossed her arms. What's so important that you can't help your own daughter out? The audacity of that question almost made me laugh. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm not available tomorrow. Fine. She turned on her heel and walked away. I heard her angry footsteps going up the stairs, heard her on the phone immediately. Can you believe this? She has plans. She's never had plans before. I finished feeding Olivia, cleaned her up, got my things together. When I left that day, I took one last long look at their house. Something had changed in me. Something had broken and reformed into something harder, less bendable. That weekend, I didn't go to their house. Sarah called 6 times. I didn't answer. She texted, Mom, I don't know what's going on with you, but this is really unfair. We had plans. Then, the brunch reservation is for 4 and we need you. Then, are you okay? Should I be worried? Then, this is really selfish of you. I turned off my phone and sat on my back porch with a cup of tea. It was a beautiful Saturday morning in late September. The kind of morning I hadn't been able to enjoy in 7 years because I was always at Sarah's house. I listened to the birds. I felt the sun on my face. I did absolutely nothing, and it felt revolutionary. Sunday evening, Sarah called from Mike's phone, which I answered thinking there might be a real emergency. Mom, where have you been? We've been trying to reach you all weekend. I had my phone off. I told you I had plans. What plans? Her voice was sharp now, done with pretending concern. That's really not your business, Sarah. There was a shocked silence. I'd never spoken to her like that before. Excuse me, I said that's not your business. Mom, what is going on with you? This isn't like you. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think. This is ridiculous. Look, we need you Monday morning. Emma has a dentist appointment and I have to work. I'm not available Monday. What do you mean you're not available? Mom, you're always available. Not anymore. What are you talking about? Are you sick? Should I come over? I'm not sick. I'm just done. Done with what? I took a deep breath. This was it. Done being used. Used? Mom, what are you? I found your credit card statement, Sarah. The one from last month. Under your bathroom sink. The silence on the other end was deafening. I saw the $15,000 in charges. In 1 month. Why, you told me you couldn't afford to give me $50 for gas. Mom, I can explain. I heard you on the phone Friday, talking about how you keep me around because I'm free childcare. How you play the struggling card and I eat it up every time. How I have nothing better to do. More silence. Then you were eavesdropping? The audacity. She was caught in a lie, caught using me, and she was offended that I overheard. I was in your kitchen feeding Olivia while you stood 10 feet away. Mom, you're taking this all out of context. No, Sarah. I'm finally seeing it in the correct context. For 7 years, you've lied to me about your finances. You've manipulated me into providing free childcare so you could live a luxury lifestyle. You've treated me like hired help, except you don't even pay me like you would hired help. That's not fair. We've been giving you time with your grandchildren. Don't. My voice came out hard. Don't you dare try to spin this like you were doing me a favor. I gave up my entire retirement for you. My hobbies, my friends, my social life, my freedom. I gave you $700,000 worth of free labor because I thought you needed help. 700,000, Mom. You're being dramatic. That's the market rate for the care I provided. I checked. And you know what? I would have done it anyway if you'd been honest. If you'd said, Mom, we can afford childcare, but we'd really love for you to watch the kids because we trust you and value you, I probably would have said yes. Maybe not 60 hours a week, but I would have helped. But you lied. You manipulated. You used me. Mom, please. I'm done, Sarah. I'm not your free nanny anymore. You can't just quit. What am I supposed to do with the kids? What every other parent does. You figure it out. Daycare, nanny, babysitter. You can afford it. I've seen your credit card statements. That's private financial information. And yet I was supposed to provide free labor while you lied about your finances? Mom, please. The kids love you. Emma will be devastated. Jackson keeps asking about you. You can't punish them for this. The manipulation was immediate and practiced. Make me feel guilty about the children. But I'd been thinking about this all weekend. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm setting boundaries. Tell the kids Grandma loves them and they can call me anytime. But I'm not your employee anymore. Especially not your unpaid employee. This is insane. You're being totally unreasonable. What am I supposed to tell work? The truth. That your free childcare quit. That you need to make arrangements like everyone else. I could lose my job. Then you'll have to make hard choices. Cut back on the designer clothes. Cancel the spa memberships. Skip the expensive dinners. Actually be the struggling parents you pretended to be. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything we've done for you. Done for me. I actually laughed. Sarah, what exactly have you done for me? Be specific. Silence. That's what I thought. Goodbye, Sarah. When you're ready to have an honest conversation, a real one where you acknowledge what you've done, you know my number. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter than I had in years. The next few days were hard. Sarah called and texted constantly. The messages ranged from angry to pleading to manipulative. You're destroying our family. The kids are crying for you. I hope you're happy. Please, Mom, we can talk about this. You're being incredibly selfish. Mike called too, his voice cold. I don't know what's gotten into you, but you're putting Sarah under tremendous stress. She's a mess. This is affecting her work, her health. You need to get over whatever this is and come back. I blocked both their numbers. Then Emma called. Sweet 7-year-old Emma. Grandma, why won't you come over? Mommy says you don't want to see us anymore. Did we do something wrong? That almost broke me. Almost. But I'd prepared for this. Oh, sweetheart, of course you didn't do anything wrong. Grandma loves you so much. But grown-ups sometimes need to have grown-up conversations about grown-up things. You're Mommy and I need to work some things out. But I miss you. I miss you too, baby. Tell you what, how about you and me have a special grandma-granddaughter day soon? Just us. I'll take you to the movies and for ice cream. Really? Really? I promise. Okay, Grandma. I love you. I love you too, Emma. So much. After I hung up, I cried. But they were different tears than the ones I'd cried on Mother's Day. These were tears of grief for what I'd lost, but also tears of relief. I was free. Sarah tried a different tactic the next week. She showed up at my house, children in tow. It was a Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. I answered the door in my bathrobe, coffee in hand. I'd been sleeping in for the first time in 7 years. Mom, we need to talk, she said. The kids rushed past her, calling for me, hugging my legs. I hugged them back, but I didn't invite them in. I'm listening, I said. Look, I'm sorry if things got misunderstood. But Mom, I'm desperate here. I might actually lose my job. I've had to call in sick 3 times already. Mike's boss is furious because he's been leaving early. We can't find a daycare with availability. It's chaos. That sounds difficult, I said neutrally. So you'll help? No. Mom, please. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry for whatever I said that hurt your feelings. I'm sorry about the money stuff. We can figure something out. Maybe we can pay you something, like 100 a week. 100 a week. After 7 years of nothing. After $15,000 credit card bills. I almost laughed. Sarah, this isn't about money. This is about respect. This is about honesty. This is about you treating me like a person instead of a free resource. I do respect you. No, you don't. You lied to me for 7 years. You manipulated me. You talked about me behind my back like I was a joke. You bragged to your friends about how you were getting over on me. She had the grace to look ashamed. You heard that one conversation. I was just venting. I didn't mean it. Which part didn't you mean? The part about playing the struggling card? The part about me having nothing better to do? The part about doing me a favor by letting me watch your children? Mom, I was just talking. You know how girls talk. It didn't mean anything. It meant everything. It showed me exactly how you really see me. And I'm done being that person. I'm done being the pathetic retiree with nothing better to do than be your unpaid servant. I never called you a servant. You treated me like one. Worse, actually. Servants get paid. Olivia started crying, picking up on the tension. Jackson was trying to get past me into the house. Emma was watching with wide, confused eyes. Look what you're doing to them, Sarah said, voice breaking. Look how you're upsetting them. I'm not the one upsetting them. You are. You're the one who built a house of cards on the back of free labor and lied about your finances. You're the one who has to explain to them why their routine is changing. Not me. So that's it? You're just done. After 7 years. I gave you 7 years, Sarah. 7 years of my life. My retirement. My freedom. And you gave me lies and manipulation in return. So yes, I'm done. Fine. Her face hardened. Fine. But don't expect to see your grandchildren. If you're not going to help, then you don't get to have the fun parts either. There it was. The threat I'd been expecting. The nuclear option. She was going to weaponize my grandchildren against me. That's your choice, I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was breaking. But let me be clear. Those children will grow up and understand what happened here. One day, Emma and Jackson and Olivia will be old enough to see the truth. And they'll remember that their grandmother loved them enough to not let herself be abused, even if it meant losing time with them. They'll remember that I set an example of self-respect and boundaries. You're delusional. Maybe. But I'm free. Can you say the same? She stared at me with so much anger I barely recognized my own daughter. Then she grabbed the kids, buckled them into her car, and drove away. Jackson was crying. Emma looked back at me through the window with a confused, sad face. I closed the door and leaned against it. The house was silent, empty. I'd stood my ground, but it hurt worse than I'd expected. Over the next 3 weeks, I heard nothing from Sarah. Radio silence. I respected her boundary, even though it killed me. I didn't try to call or text. I didn't show up at their house. I'd said my piece. The ball was in her court. Instead, I started rebuilding my life. The life I'd put on hold. I called Janet, my old friend from before all this started. Janet, it's Patricia. I know it's been years, but I was wondering if that offer for coffee was still open. Janet's warm voice came through the phone. Patricia. Oh my God. I was starting to think you'd moved or something. Of course it's still open. How about tomorrow? We met at a coffee shop the next day. I told her everything. She listened without judgment, her face showing all the horror and sympathy I'd needed. That's terrible, she said when I finished. I'm so sorry you went through that. But I have to say, good for you for standing up for yourself. It doesn't feel good. It feels awful. Standing up for yourself often does at first. But, Patricia, you did the right thing. You can't let people use you, even family. Especially family. I joined a new book club. This one met on Wednesday evenings. I didn't miss a single meeting. We read literary fiction and drank wine and talked about everything from plot structure to politics to our own lives. I made new friends. Women my own age who valued me for me, not for what I could do for them. I signed up for watercolor classes again. Thursday mornings at the community center. I was rusty, but it felt good to hold a brush, to watch colors blend on paper, to create something just for the joy of it. I even went on a date. Frank, the symphony lover, had moved on years ago, but Janet introduced me to her neighbor, a retired professor named David who loved reading and hiking and had the kindest eyes I'd seen in years. We went to a matinee movie and lunch after. It wasn't romantic necessarily, but it was nice. Nice to be seen as a person, a woman, not just a grandmother or a free babysitter. I traveled. Nothing extravagant, but I took that long weekend trip to Charleston I'd been dreaming about. I walked the historic streets, visited gardens, ate shrimp and grits at a restaurant overlooking the water. I sent postcards to Janet and David and my other new friends. For the first time in 7 years, I was living my own life. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about my grandchildren every single day. I missed Emma's gap-toothed smile, Jackson's endless questions about dinosaurs, Olivia's little hands reaching for me. I missed them so much it physically hurt. I'd set boundaries to protect myself, but the cost was high. Then, 6 weeks after our last conversation, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Patterson? This is Principal Reynolds from Evergreen Elementary. I'm calling about Emma. My heart stopped. Is she okay? What happened? She's physically fine, but she's been having some behavioral issues. Acting out in class, not completing assignments, crying frequently. We've tried to reach her parents multiple times, but they're not responding to our calls or emails. Emma mentioned you're her grandmother. I was hoping you might be able to help. What kind of behavioral issues? She's been saying things like nobody wants me and I'm too much trouble. This isn't like her at all. She's normally such a happy, engaged student. I'm concerned something's happening at home. My grandmother instincts kicked into overdrive. Thank you for calling me, Principal Reynolds. I'll look into this. After I hung up, I sat there thinking. Sarah wasn't answering the school's calls. That wasn't like her. Sarah was obsessive about appearing to be the perfect mother to the outside world. Something was wrong. I called Sarah. She didn't answer. I called Mike. Voicemail. Worried now, I drove to their house. It was 2 p.m. on a Thursday. Sarah's car was in the driveway. Mike's wasn't. I knocked on the door. No answer. I used my key, the one they'd never asked for back. Sarah. I called out. It's Mom. I'm coming in. The house was a disaster. Toys everywhere. Dishes piled in the sink, on the counters. Laundry overflowing from baskets. The place smelled like dirty diapers and something rotting. I found Sarah in her bedroom, still in her pajamas, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sarah. She turned her head to look at me. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her hair was unwashed. She looked terrible. Mom, she whispered. What are you doing here? Emma's school called me. They're worried about her. What's going on? Sarah's face crumpled. She started crying, deep, ugly sobs. Everything's falling apart. Everything. I lost my job 3 weeks ago. I kept missing days, being late, leaving early. They said I wasn't reliable anymore. Mike's furious with me. He's barely home. When he is here, we just fight. The kids are acting out. I can't keep up with anything. The house is a mess. I'm a mess. We can't find decent childcare we can afford. The good places have 6-month waiting lists and the cheap ones are terrible. I'm drowning, Mom. I'm drowning and I don't know what to do. Part of me, the petty part, wanted to say I told you so. Wanted to point out that this was exactly what I'd warned her about. That free childcare doesn't grow on trees. That she'd built her life on an unsustainable foundation. But she was my daughter, and she was clearly suffering. I sat down on the edge of her bed. Where are the kids? Olivia's napping. Jackson's watching TV. Emma's at school, obviously. When did you last eat? I don't know. Yesterday? I'm not hungry. When did you last shower? What does it matter? It matters because you're depressed, Sarah. You need help. I don't need help, I need. She stopped, looked at me. I need you. I know I don't deserve it. I know I used you. I know I lied. But Mom, I'm begging you. I need help. There it was. The moment I'd been both waiting for and dreading. My daughter asking for help. Really asking, vulnerably, desperately. I could say no. I could walk away. Let her face the consequences of her actions. Let her figure it out on her own, like I'd had to figure out so much on my own. But I didn't become a mother so I could watch my child suffer, even when she'd hurt me. Okay, I heard myself say. Here's what's going to happen. Sarah looked up at me with desperate hope. First, you're going to get up, take a shower, and get dressed in actual clothes. Then you're going to eat something. Then you and I are going to clean this house together. Then we're going to sit down and have a real conversation. An honest one. Okay, she whispered. Okay. While Sarah showered, I started cleaning. I did the dishes, took out the overflowing trash, started a load of laundry. By the time Sarah came out looking slightly more human, the kitchen was manageable. I made her a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup. Comfort food. She ate slowly, not meeting my eyes. When she was done, we sat at her dining room table, and I said, "Talk to me. Real talk. No manipulation, no lies. Just the truth." And for the first time in maybe ever, Sarah told me the truth. They'd been living beyond their means for years. Mike had made good money, and she'd convinced herself they deserved to live like they were making even more. The designer clothes, the expensive dinners, the luxury trips. It was all about keeping up appearances, about proving they were successful. Her job loss wasn't just about childcare issues. She'd been distracted, stressed, not performing well. The childcare crisis was just the final straw. "I'm sorry, Mom," she said, and this time it sounded real. "I'm so sorry. You were right about everything. I did use you. I did lie. I manipulated you and took advantage of your love. And I'm so sorry." "Why?" I asked. "Why did you do it?" She was quiet for a long time. "Because it was easy. Because you never said no. Because I could have my cake and eat it too, the lifestyle I wanted in the kids. I never had to sacrifice anything. Because you were sacrificing for me. And I told myself you were happy doing it, that you wanted to spend time with the kids anyway. So it wasn't really using you. But I knew. Deep down I knew. Thank you for being honest. I don't deserve your help. But I'm asking anyway. Not as free labor. Not as a solution to all my problems. But as my mom. I need my mom." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was broken in a way I'd never seen before. This wasn't manipulation. This was genuine crisis. "Here's what I'm willing to do," I said. "I will help you temporarily, while you get back on your feet. But there are conditions. Non-negotiable conditions. Anything. First, honesty. Complete honesty about your finances, your situation, everything. No more lies." "Yes, absolutely." "Second, you will pay me. Not market rate necessarily, but something fair. We'll figure out a number that works." "Of course." "Third, limited hours. I will not work 60 hours a week. 20, maybe 30 max. You need to find other childcare solutions too. I will be a supplement, not your only option." "That's fair." "Fourth, respect. You will treat me with respect. You will value my time. You will not take me for granted. If you need me to stay late or come early, you ask, you don't demand. And you accept it if I say no. I understand. And fifth, you will work on yourself. You're depressed. You need to see a therapist. You need to figure out why you've been making these choices. You need to deal with whatever made you think this lifestyle was necessary." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Thank you, Mom. I'm not done. I'm doing this because I love you and I love my grandchildren." "But Sarah, I meant what I said. I'm not the same pushover I was before. If you fall back into old patterns, if you start using me again, I'm gone. For good this time. Do you understand?" "Yes, I understand. I promise, Mom. Things will be different. They better be." We spent the rest of the afternoon cleaning the house together. When Emma came home from school, she saw me and burst into tears, running into my arms. "Grandma, you came back." "I did, sweetheart. I'm sorry I was gone. Are you going to stay?" "I'm going to help out more, yes. But Emma, I need you to understand something. Grown-ups need to have balance in their lives. I love you so much, but I also need time for myself, for my friends, for my hobbies. That doesn't mean I love you less. It means I love myself too. Does that make sense?" She nodded against my shoulder. "I'm glad you're back." "Me too, baby." Over the next few months, things slowly changed. Sarah found a new job, lower paying than her old one, but with better work-life balance. They had to cut way back on expenses. The designer shopping stopped. The expensive dinners became rare treats. They sold Mike's BMW and bought a used Honda. They found a part-time daycare situation for Olivia and after-school care for Emma and Jackson. I came 2 days a week to help out, and they paid me, not a fortune, but $400 a week, which was fair for the approximately 20 hours I worked. More importantly, they treated me differently. Sarah would ask, "Mom, are you available Tuesday?" instead of "Mom, I need you Tuesday." When I had plans, she accepted it without guilt trips. When I stayed late to help with an emergency, she thanked me profusely and often sent me home with a gift card to my favorite restaurant. We had family dinners on Sundays, real ones where we all sat down together and talked. Sarah asked about my life, my book club, my art classes. She seemed genuinely interested in me as a person, not just as a grandmother. Sarah started therapy. She dealt with a lot of issues from her own childhood, from societal pressure, from her need to appear perfect. She admitted she'd been deeply unhappy living that lifestyle, always worried about money despite spending it freely, always anxious about keeping up appearances. I thought if I had all the right things, wore the right clothes, went to the right places, I'd feel successful, she told me one Sunday over coffee. But I just felt empty and stressed and like a fraud. This slower life, with less stuff and more presence, it's better. So much better. Mike apologized too, in his own way. I should have stood up to Sarah earlier, he admitted. I knew what she was doing to you wasn't right, but it was easier to go along with it than to fight with her. I'm sorry. I accepted his apology. Not everyone is good at confrontation. I understood that. The grandkids adjusted. Emma stopped acting out at school. Jackson seemed less anxious. Olivia was thriving in her part-time daycare, making friends, learning social skills. And I had my life back. My real life. I saw my grandchildren regularly, but not constantly. I had time for my friends, my hobbies, myself. I was taking a trip to Santa Fe with Janet next month. David and I had tickets to the symphony. My watercolors were improving, and I'd even sold one at a community art show. I was happy. Really, genuinely happy. Not the surface happiness of someone convincing themselves that martyrdom is fulfillment, but the deep satisfaction of someone living authentically with boundaries and self-respect. One evening, about 4 months after that confrontation in Sarah's bedroom, we were sitting in my backyard. Just the two of us. The kids were with Mike at the park. Sarah had brought wine. We were watching the sunset. "Mom," Sarah said quietly, "I need to tell you something." My heart clenched, worried she was about to ask for more, to push boundaries again. "I'm grateful," she continued. "I know that sounds inadequate, but I'm grateful for everything. Not just for the help you're giving us now, but for standing up for yourself, for walking away. I needed that wake-up call. I needed to hit rock bottom to see what I'd become, what I'd been doing to you, to myself, to my family. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I need you to know that I see you now, not as free labor, not as a convenient solution, but as my mother, a whole person with her own life and needs and value beyond what you can do for me. I see you, and I'm sorry it took me so long." I reached over and took her hand. "Thank you for saying that. I love you, Mom, and I respect you, and I promise I'll keep working to be better, to deserve your help and your presence in our lives. I love you too, Sarah." We sat there as the sun set, holding hands, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real, deep peace. Looking back now, I know that walking away was the hardest thing I ever did. Harder than losing my husband. Harder than all those years of teaching difficult students. Harder than anything. But it was also the most necessary thing I ever did. Because it taught me that love without boundaries isn't love, it's self-destruction. It taught me that you can't help someone by letting them use you. It taught me that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. I'm 67 years old, and I finally learned to value myself as much as I value others. I learned that being a good mother doesn't mean being a doormat. I learned that my daughter needed to see me as a person, not a resource. And she could only learn that if I stopped letting her treat me otherwise. Some of my friends have asked if I regret standing my ground, especially during those weeks when I didn't see my grandchildren. The answer is no, because those weeks of pain led to months of healing. They led to real change. They led to authentic relationships built on respect instead of use. My grandchildren are learning from this too. They're learning that grandma has her own life, that grown-ups need balance, that love doesn't mean unlimited availability. They're learning to value the time we spend together because it's not taken for granted anymore. Emma told me recently, "Grandma, I'm proud of you for having hobbies and friends. When I grow up, I want to be like you." That might be the greatest compliment I've ever received. This is my story of how I went from being used to being valued, from being invisible to being seen, from being a resource to being a person. And if there's anything I want you to take away from this, it's this. It's never too late to stand up for yourself. It's never too late to set boundaries. It's never too late to demand respect. You are not selfish for valuing yourself. You are not mean for protecting your time and energy. You are not bad for saying no. You are worthy. You are valuable. You matter. And sometimes the greatest act of love is teaching others that they can't treat you without respect, even when they're family, especially when they're family. I'm Patricia. I'm 67 years old, and I'm finally free.